What is going on, and welcome to the channel and Theme Deck Tuesday for this week. As you can see, we're going to be playing the Rillaboom theme deck just for a bit of fun, mixing it up and play something that's, fairly strong deck, but it does of course struggle against the Charizard decks, as it always does, and any fire decks for that matter, like the Cinderace deck as well. But it's a pretty good deck, and if those fire decks weren't around, I think this would probably be one of the best theme decks in the format. And as we can see here, we do actually have a nice mirror match against another Rillaboom player. Now they are going second, so they're able to get a bit of damage in on us, which is a little unfortunate, but we do have a Professor Research, our Pokemon Center Lady, that we can play down to nullify some of this damage. We'll go for that and try and heal off and do some damage back to my opponent. That's going to reset their damage. Potentially we could have held off on that, I suppose, and played the Pokekid first. Probably would have been a better idea, but got a little bit too excited and ahead of myself there, but that's alright. We're able to survive here as my opponent deals 60 damage. We do now draw the Professor's Research though, so definitely going to be playing that, and looking for some evolutions and some energy that we can play down to get these Rillabooms up and running here. We do also draw into a potion, which would be quite nice if we can make use of that, but we'll Great Ball first of all here, see what we can get into. Not a whole lot, but we will take a Thwackey for sure, so we can try and get multiple Rillaboom set up here. And we'll just attach onto the bench. We can potion potentially to heal off some of this damage. Probably will make a difference, because then if my opponent gets 2 heads, we're going to get knocked out. But if my opponent gets 1 heads, then they won't get the knockout. So I suppose it probably is worthwhile doing a potion onto the active here and forcing them to get a little bit more damage and a couple more heads on those coin flips. But down to us to deal 20 damage onto their Maractus and see what they can do from there. Of course, if you are new here, be sure to subscribe down below. I do these Theme Deck Tuesday videos every week, where we take a theme deck and just play it, have some fun, and see if we can win some matches in the format. And I have done quite a few of these videos. This is actually the 50th video going into the playlist. I have done some Theme Deck Tuesday videos that aren't exactly reviews. We have some tournaments and that sort of thing, but overall there are 50 videos dedicated to this format and this playlist overall, which is pretty fun in my opinion, so definitely stick around for those. But if you're interested in standard format or expanded format, then I do certainly cover those formats as well, so stick around for those, and I'll have plenty more to come in the future, as I do enjoy making fun videos and light-hearted deck profiles in those formats. Now, as we've seen in that previous turn, my potion did indeed pay off. It took my opponent that 1 extra turn in order to get set up, and that's really going to pay off for us now, as we have a Rillaboom set up. All we need is the grass energy, and there as we draw it right off the top, no problem. And we have a hop as well to help get us towards some more cards here. Let's go for a Great Ball. We could get another Thwackey, or we do also have a Gossifleur. We have the Eldegoss in hand, so I think we'll definitely take the Gossifleur instead. That would be a big help overall. We could attach onto the active and get a nice attack off with our Rillaboom, knocking out the active Maractus and also dealing a nice spread of 10 damage across all of my opponent's Pokemon on the bench there. So this is going just as well as it possibly could. My opponent doesn't have anything set up that they can effectively attack with, and they're going to be promoting a Snorlax with an energy card on it already, which really is not what you want to be promoting. You should really be putting up the other Snorlax or one of their other Pokemon in order to sacrifice it and give me a free knockout here, as I could potentially just spread some damage and set up knockouts on the bench. Or we could go for the knockout here. If we try and deal 90 damage to active, it's not going to knock out, and then my opponent can hit into us, so I think going for the knockout here is perfectly fine, and it's going to set my opponent back quite a bit. So we'll attach active, we'll go for the Pokekid and search out another couple of Pokemon here. Go for a Thwackey so that we have another good attacking option there. And let's just go for that big attack. Like I said, it's going to be dealing 180 damage, definitely knocking out that Snorlax. And we'll take our second prize card here. We have everything that we need other than a backup attacker, but seeing as we're so far ahead of my opponent, there's no way that they're going to be able to catch up here unless they get something like an Eldegoss set up, and even then that is going to be very slow because they're going to have to take multiple turns in order to get those energies into play from Eldegoss's attack there. Looks like that's the route that they are going for, but they didn't promote the Gossifleur, so they had no way of knowing that they were going to get that into play. We'll go ahead and attach onto our other Rillaboom that's on the bench, and we can at least attack our opponent for 90 damage and continue to spread some 10 damage across my opponent's bench as we have done previously. Let me know in the comments what kind of theme decks you guys like playing. Do you have a favourite theme deck if you enjoy this format? I know a lot of people do have some favourites and they like to just stick to those ones. I personally do have some favourites, but for the most part I like mixing it up, playing a variety of different theme decks, and just really whatever I feel like playing at the time is the deck that I'll go ahead and play. But we see here we get a good amount of cards off of our Hop, a good variety I should say. We're always going to get 3 cards off of Hop, but we have a good selection here, and as long as we're building up energy, I don't mind this at all. We can easily just hit into my opponent for 90 and keep spreading, since there's no real threat to actually put on pressure here with our Rillaboom, as I'm quite happy to just build up that damage and ensure that we have plenty in play in order to take easy knockouts. My opponent does get a potion though off of that Professor Research, going to allow them to heal off some of the damage on that Grookey so that they can easily evolve into a Rillaboom with full HP. Would be very useful for them. Looks like they are struggling to find the evolutions and get into the Rillaboom though. Going to be a big help for us since we were able to get it set up very quickly, which is something that this Rillaboom deck doesn't always do. Can sometimes let you down, as we can see on my opponent's end, but when it does work, like we're seeing on our side, then it is really great and runs really well. When it does actually want to run well, it can do that. So we'll have to see if my opponent can do anything. No, it looks like they're going to do concede and just give the game to ourselves, since there's not really any way of them making a comeback with the deck. That is typical, but it does happen in theme format, so we'll move into another one and see what kind of deck we're up against. Heading into our second match here, and final one for this week's Theme Deck Tuesday video. Looks like we have a pretty ideal start. All we're missing is some additional basic Pokemon here in order to get going. I think we'll hold off on the Great Ball until the next turn so that we can dig one card deeper into the deck. And this is going to be a very difficult matchup against Soaring Storm, one of the best decks in the format. Of course, if you're not familiar, I'll go ahead and leave links in the description as usual. I'll leave a link for Soaring Storm as well as the Rillaboom theme deck and a couple of other things like top 10s and stuff of that nature. But yeah, definitely one of the best theme decks, and it has remained in the top spot for a very long time now, since, as we said last week, there's not been a lot of new content for the theme deck format, unfortunately, so not quite sure how long I'm going to keep this series running, but I'm certainly still having fun with it and I enjoy the format overall, so I might as well keep it running for as long as I enjoy it, and people seem to be enjoying it as well, so certainly if people are going to keep watching and enjoying it, then that's great too. But we do have a Great Ball that we can make use of here, see if we can get something useful, and we do certainly get a lot of Pokemon to choose from. 5 different Pokemon here. We have the Grookey and Thwackey. Unfortunately, we just have the Rillaboom in our hand, but we could also go for the Snorlax here, which wouldn't be a terrible option as it does deal a good amount of damage, which is going to be effective in knocking out almost all of my opponent's Pokemon here. So we'll go ahead and put this down and evolve into the Eldegoss, and then we can attach onto the Snorlax, potentially using a potion. I think we will, as that is going to keep us out of range of this Tornadus doing any significant damage here, and then we can use Blessing of Fluff in order to search our deck for 3 energy cards and get those attached onto our Snorlax here. This is going to allow us to get that big attack off on this following turn. 130 is going to knock out that Tornadus, no problem, and it's easy enough for us to go ahead and retreat our Eldegoss into Snorlax. My opponent is going to have to take some time in order to get Dragonite set up, but once they do, they can accelerate energy very quickly, so we are going to be reliant on them not doing that at all here. We see a Pokemon communication from them. Going to be getting another Pokemon to work with. Could it be the Dragonite? Nope, it is a Pidgey. Definitely would have thought that you would have grabbed a Dragonite there, as it would have made the most sense, but we see that they're not going for that just yet. Perhaps they already have it in their hand, or they have another way of getting it, so they're just going to be attacking us for 20 damage for the time being, so we can retreat into our Snorlax. We'll attach another energy onto our Pokemon and then get the knockout here. If my opponent does get the Dragonite though, we should be in a pretty good spot, as the Dragonite does require 4 energy in order to attack. Sure, my opponent can attach one from their hand. The Dragonite's ability then allows it to attach 2 more energies from their hand, but that is only a total of 3 energy in play. Looks like they did have the Pidgeotto and Dragonite both in their hand already. They did have a pretty strong start overall, but it's going to be difficult for them to get anything else going here. We see a Lily, so that is a very good draw and a very good turn overall from my opponent. Do they find the energy cards here though in order to deal 80 damage into our Snorlax? That would certainly be a significant amount. We'll be able to cancel out some of that with our Pokemon Center Lady, but at the very least we do have our Eldegoss if we need it. Ideally though, we want to try and find a draw supporter so that we can get some more Pokemon in play and set those up. My opponent using the Dragonite to accelerate some energy here. Looks like they're attaching onto the bench though, so they are just going to be using the Tornadus in the active spot as a sacrifice, while they build up some benched attackers that they can go ahead and utilize in order to deal some damage to us. They're getting back a lightning energy with the item there, and they're also going to be attaching it onto the bench. So I believe it's a Lantern. Yeah, this is Jinchou, so evolves into Lantern. That Lantern can deal a maximum of 140 damage, and our Snorlax does have 150, so we will be able to stay out of range from a knockout of that Lantern, which is ideal, and we do also get another basic Pokemon that we can play down. So we have a reasonable turn here, still just looking for that draw supporter, but we are going ahead in the prizes, and like I said, this is pretty much as ideal as you can get with Rillaboom in this particular matchup, as it is going to be a very close one. But since we've been able to get ahead in the prize race, I think we should be able to stay ahead at this point. My opponent is going to be forced to discard a bunch of energy here, and unless they can find a lot of energy off of this Tate and Lisa, then they might be in a tricky situation. They do also have that Pidgeotto on the bench though, so they can get an additional draw here from Airmail, the ability on Pidgeotto. And let's see if they get any more energy out of the 5 cards in their hand. They do get a energy. They're also going to be accelerating some, so they are able to build up the Dragonite here, and they can use that in order to get a knockout on us if they so please, as the Dragonite does also have a very good attack. It deals 170 damage. It does have a very high downside in that you have to discard a bunch of energies, but 170 will certainly knock out a lot of Pokemon. Now, if we use Pokemon Center Lady, it will keep us out of range of a bunch of things. For example, the Pidgey here would be able to knock out our Snorlax at this point, so definitely want to use Pokemon Center Lady in order to avoid that and force my opponent to have to use the Dragonite in order to knock us out. We can also put down a Maractus, I'm fine with that, and since we have nothing else to play out, we'll just go for the knockout here. definitely keep the pressure up on my opponent and take our third prize card, while they have yet to take a single prize card. We do get another energy, which is great, but we are going to have to take a turn here in order to take stock and recharge our energy situation with the Eldegoss. My opponent has been very effective in getting a draw supporter every single turn here. Pretty good luck on their end in order to try and stay in this game, because it is certainly not over yet, as they've been able to keep up pretty well, and they're just looking to get another Dragonite set up here. They are going to be getting a knockout with the active Dragonite and take their first prize, but like I mentioned, they are going to lose a lot of energy in the process, so they're going to take a couple of turns after this in order to recharge their side of the board as well. So here comes the ability from Dragonite. Are they going to go onto the active? More than likely onto the bench, which, yep, there's one going onto the Chinchou, and just the one energy attachment for the time being. They take the knockout with Dragonite, and they can take their first prize card of the match on their end. Now, we do have this Whimsicott, which potentially Cotton Ride could be useful, but it is a coin flip attack, so I don't really want to be relying on it, and I will just put up our Eldegoss so that we can get some extra energies into play here. And we'll also be building up a big Maractus, so we can hopefully get some knockouts this way as well. So let's search out 3 energies from the deck once again, and we'll be putting all of those onto our Maractus. We can always use the Whimsicott here in order to deal 50 damage with that Leaf Slap if we have to, but really Whimsicott is going to be a last minute resort if we need it. Maractus is going to be the main carry Pokemon from this point going forward, but it's not looking too good here as my opponent is slowly working towards that second Dragonite. That would allow them to accelerate a lot of energy, would give them the capabilities to play 5 energies in a turn, since they get the 2 energies from each of the Dragonite abilities, plus 1 from their hand as well. So Dragonite being a huge energy accelerator is the main reason for it being so effective in theme format, as well as the variety of attackers that it has available as well. We see here, speaking of the ability, my opponent is going to be accelerating onto the active, potentially. They do put 2 there, and they also do have a couple going onto the benched Chinchou as well. We see a Thunderous coming down. Will my opponent be able to switch out, or do they have the energy to get an attack off? They don't. They don't do either of those things, so this is going to be our opportunity to get in there with Maractus and try and take a knockout on this Dragonite with energy on it already. Let's go for a big bunch of coin flips. Get a single head, 2 heads. Come on, 3 heads is exactly what we needed. 180 damage is going to be taking out that Dragonite, and that is precisely what we needed in order to stay in this game. We take a Great Ball off of the prizes, so we can try and find a Grookey here in order to get this Rillaboom set up. Not sure my Maractus is going to survive this turn, as my opponent will surely be looking to get a knockout on it. They even get a second Pidgeotto, and they do also find that second Dragonite, so they still have the energy acceleration available. They also have that additional draw available through the double air mails, but it's certainly going to be difficult for them to find the Lantern or any other kind of attacker at this point. To attach manually from their hand onto the active Chinchou there. Do they have the energies for the ability on Dragonite though? That is the question. They do indeed have it. They at least have one anyways. Probably going to be going on to Dragonite or Thunderous, and yet we see a Lightning going onto the Dragonite there. My opponent will potentially be attacking with the Chinchou, not doing a huge amount of damage, but it's certainly better than nothing. And we have another opportunity here to flip some more coins with our Maractus, I think. My opponent just mulling over their options from the looks of things, seeing if there's any possible way that they can win this game. Like I mentioned, our board isn't exactly the strongest. Our bench is looking pretty poor, honestly, but this Maractus is going to carry us through the rest of this game, and if we are able to win it, it is going to be a miracle. But yeah, this just isn't something that particularly happens with Rillaboom. Really coming out in force today and showing that it is a formidable deck. And as I mentioned earlier, if the fire decks weren't so prevalent in theme format, then Rillaboom really would be one of the best theme deck format decks for sure. Let's go with a Great Ball though and take a Grookey out of the deck. We've seen there that we do have the entire evolution line in our hand, or in our deck rather, as well as our hand, but I'm happy to discard those ones because they're in the deck already, so it's easy enough to find them again, and lo and behold, we do have a Thwackey in our hand once again. We'll go for a Great Ball and see what else we can find. We get another Grookey. I'm happy enough to play that down. And we do also have an energy attachment that we can put onto one of these Grookey. Before going for another attack with our Maractus, we just have to find 2 heads in order to get the knockout here, but we do indeed find 3 once again, which is perfect. Definitely getting a knockout on that Muck, or Grimer I should say. And going down to 1 prize card remaining, we have at least 5 turns in order to win this game. That's assuming, of course, my opponent takes a knockout every single turn from this point forward, and that should be plenty of time for us in order to build up a big attacker in something like a Rillaboom, for example. We can use our Eldegoss, get in there, accelerate some energies. That'll take a turn, but then we just have to find our Rillaboom as well, and considering we already have Thwackey in the hand, we have a couple of hops, I reckon we can get there no problem. Using the Eldegoss to accelerate those energies will also help to thin out the deck, so we can get towards the cards that we need more effectively for sure. My opponent going in with Dragonite though, not sure that's quite the best option, but it is going to be an attack at the very least, and that is really all my opponent wants at this point, is a big attack in order to deal some damage. It's just going to be wasting a lot of energy and a lot of resources, because as we can see here, my opponent now has 4 cards remaining in their deck. We have a massive 23, and my opponent has really struggled to find everything that they need, and we still have plenty of resources to work with. So my opponent losing 3 more energy cards. We're going to go in with our Eldegoss, and we're going to get some more energy onto our board. We even draw into the Pokekid, so that is perfect. We can pick the Rillaboom right out of the deck using our Pokekid here, and that is going to more or less guarantee us the match at this point. We just want to check that we have energy, but we do have 4 energies left in there, so this is very much a close game from this point, and we can accelerate all 3 of these, not necessarily picking them all onto the Rillaboom, but I mean it is required in order to win, get that big attack off with Rillaboom, so we will put them all onto there. I know that the Soaring Storm deck doesn't have any ways of bringing up a bench Pokemon, so nothing like Boss's Orders, Pokemon Catcher, nothing of that nature, so I'm quite happy just to build up this Thwackey and then Rillaboom on the bench. Even if my opponent gets the energy that they need somehow miraculously get the energy, then they're only taking a prize, and like I say, we have multiple turns here in order to build up an attacker and get in there with Rillaboom to close this game. My opponent's looking to try and build up a 3rd Dragonite though. Not sure that's quite going to work out for them, as they only have 1 card left in their deck, but we'll see if they find any more energy that they can attach onto their board. Really, the downside was using Dragonite as an attacker so many times and wasting so many energies throughout this game, but it can have its upsides and its downsides for sure, and we've certainly seen the downside to Soaring Storm in this particular match. My opponent is going to be attaching onto the active and the bench, so splitting up their energy this time around, and they also go for a Cynthia, which is going to draw their entire deck, so now we have a double win condition. We can either win by knockout or by decking them out, and just passing over to them would win us the game as well. So completely ran my opponent out of resources. They give us a well played, we'll give them one back, as they did certainly try their best, and they were a good sport in playing out that game, as many people would just quit early as we've seen in the first match, but that was certainly a good one. Rillaboom put on a very good show after a rocky start there in that second game, and we're able to close it out with an awesome victory. Let me know if you enjoyed this video, give it a like down below, and I'll see you in the next one.